All right. Welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how are we doing?
Feeling good after that last game. A little nervous when we were recording the last podcast.
Yeah, and I think the reason why the reason why we're feeling like that is because, Milwaukee in game 2, as we had kind of talked about, is very much always in striking distance, but could just never get to the point of like keeping the game close. It just always felt as though like perpetually down 12 is what we were kind of talking about is, this team is, if they go on a run, they could maybe come back, and they almost did.
Mhm.
In that game, they were able to cut it to 2, but unfortunately, Pascal Siakam hits a 3, and it was curtains. And Milwaukee unfortunately found themselves in a 2-0 hole. Heading into game 3. But again, just kind of talking about game 3 a little bit. I mean, these are the type of performances that Milwaukee needs to have in order to win. Gary Trent Jr. hitting 9 threes and scoring 37 points, which, by the way, is very much not only a playoff career high for him, but I think just a career high in general. I don't think he's ever scored.
Yeah, I don't remember him ever doing that.
No. So scoring 9 threes, 37 points, a blowout win against the Indiana Pacers. Giannis also chipping in 37. And, again, Milwaukee needs to have performances like this for them to win games. Okay. They almost had it last game where, Giannis and Bobby combined to score a lot of points, but, just not enough there. So I guess in game 3, which, by the way, I expect Milwaukee to win because, you got the home crowd and, Milwaukee's playing with a little bit of an edge. What did you see in Milwaukee's performance against Indiana in game 3?
Well, they obviously still won by 16. I'll give it to the Bucks. Obviously, you have that huge game coming from Gary Trent, like you'd said, with 37, Giannis with 37 as well. Still kind of a little bit iffy with some of our other guys, just kind of looking at it. Brook Lopez went 0 for 3. Kevin Porter Jr. went 0 for 5. Taurean Prince 0 for 1 again. So a lot of carrying from a couple guys, but I think overall, the Lillard 2 of 12. So not a lot of hot shooters outside of Gary and Giannis, but Bobby, just a lot of more consistency outside the top two, but everything looked a lot smoother. I think with Lillard's lack of shooting, he made up for on his defensive side. He somehow had 2 blocks. One of them for a poster block on Miles Turner, and then obviously giving up an and one right after. I think that was like his only field goal that whole game for Miles Turner. But 2 really good blocks and a late game steal that kind of helped seal the deal with the run that they were making. So that was good to see. Even without his shooting, that was what we're hoping for. He somehow played defense that game. I felt good with AJ Green. He hit a lot of big 3-pointers, kind of like game 2 going into the first half. Bucks only had like 2 or 3 3-pointers, and then were huge in the third quarter. Going into the fourth quarter, end up having 15 threes made. Obviously, the vast majority being Gary Trent and AJ Green, but I think just overall a really good momentum boost. Obviously, you got to win tonight. They play in about an hour. Of course, they have that 8:30 game on a Sunday. But obviously, you have to win every game. But this is a huge game. You don't want to go into Indiana down 3-1 because there's really no coming back from that. So tonight's a big game, and I don't expect Gary Trent to go 9 of 12 again from 3-pointers. So I think kind of preparing yourself of hoping Lillard, can step up, not go 1 for 8, and obviously still have Gary Trent still make the 3-pointers, but again, I don't think he's going to make 9 again. That was tying a franchise record with Ray Allen. Just kind of hoping for Brook Lopez, hit a couple shots and just hope to see a little more of a spread scoring outside of 2 37s and then a 10 and a 12 for the other two. But no, overall good game. Overall, I'll say a good second half. That first half was very, very iffy. Texting my dad like, "Oh, this is not looking good when you're going down 12 into the half." It looks very, very similar to what we've seen the past 2 games, but No, I felt good. We're up by 22 at one point, and really able to hold that lead in that second half for basically the entirety of the half. I don't really remember it ever getting close again. Once they got their 22-point lead margin.
Yeah, and again, in Indiana had some guys. I made some timely shots. Halliburton. I think Halliburton. I believe he improved from last game slightly, a little bit. He hit 14, 10 assists. And again, that's been the biggest X factor is Halliburton. He doesn't look like the fastest guy in the world, but like he's quick and he is a really, really good passer. I don't think that any of that can be understated, but Nemhard, he had a couple good games against the Bucks, and he had 6 points, so kind of held him at bay. Siakam's really been their star performer this series. He's one of those guys who can get his, scoring 28. Neesmith, that's another guy who is a frustrating guy to play against. He's a really good defender. You saw I believe it was the third quarter where he blocked Giannis at the rim. So he is a very, very long defender. It can be very frustrating to play against. Miles Turner only had 6 points. So again, when you can hold their stars at bay, like Milwaukee is always going to have kind of a solid chance. And as you kind of saw in one of the plays, Giannis, Benedict Mathurin, I'm sorry, he picked up a technical foul because Giannis put a knee to his chest. Or stomach, and Benedict Mathurin, said some words to him at the free throw line.
This is stupid.
He got impressed. Hey, you know what? I'm telling you, this is who the Pacers are. This is why I call them a bunch of front runners. Because when everything's going right, they're just shit talking you to your face. But if they're down, then they could be easily rattled. Okay, they could get easily frustrated. They're gonna start talking shit. This is who they are. This is who the Indiana Pacers are. They're fake tough. And, this is why a lot of people don't respect him, because this is why I don't personally respect the Pacers, because they're just a bunch of fake tough guys. You'll get like fucking jackass like TJ McConnell just like, shit talking when they're up in game 2 against Bobby Portis. But then, Giannis puts one knee into Benedict Mathurin's like stomach, and all of a sudden Benedict Mathurin sits around and he's acting like he's so fucking tough. It's like, dude, let me tell you something. Giannis will put his nuts on your face if he could. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. So that's why I don't like the Pacers. They have a lot of talent, but like they're just a bunch of front runners. They're just a team that's going to be competitive. They're probably going to be like a second round darling, and then they're just going to like probably bow out like that. This is exactly who the Pacers are. So they are. So. But look, let's talk about the performance of Gary Trent, because I don't think anybody expected that out of him. I didn't. I think everybody was surprised with that box score. Holy shit, Gary Trent, 37 points, 9 threes. I mean, he was just on one. And it's such a credit to him how far he's come from like the beginning of the year, where everybody wasn't very high on Gary Trent. They thought this was like a bad signing for Milwaukee because he wasn't hitting threes, wasn't hitting shots. And now all of a sudden to see where he come from that all the way to like now he's hitting shots. Now he's like one of Milwaukee's top performers off the bench. It's really just a credit to the work that he's put in all throughout the year.
Yeah, and I know starting at the beginning of the year, obviously we were talking about, I mean, he was cold. He was like literally going like one for like basically what a Lillard stat line was, 1 for 8. He was going overs. It was starting to look like not the Gary Trent that they were hoping they would get. But no, I felt like every time the ball was in his hands, it was going in. And even outside of that, I feel like only missing 5 total shots outside of the 3 3-pointer attempts that he took, almost went 100% from the line. I think one of the biggest thing though, he had 4 steals that game. I feel like his defense is not talked about enough, kind of like what AJ Green does, able to hit threes, but can also play defense as well. So he had a couple late game steals that I felt like led to a good fast break and a just good transition play, allowing the Bucks to get an extra possession and obviously taking one away from the Pacers as well. But some of the shots that he hit the other night were some of them were clean, and he definitely had the hot hands, and the heat checks after heat check, I felt like everything just kept going in. So it was nice to have, I think, that sense of urgency, knowing that, throwing him in the starting lineup created a huge change in momentum. I feel like with how the Bucks played that game last night, and I don't know if they've released the lineups for tonight yet, but I really hope that we're going with Kuzma, Giannis, Brooke, Gary, and Dame again, because I just feel like that allowed that immediate intensity going into that game. And I think Gary Trent starting over Taurean Prince. Obviously, Taurean Prince only played 3 minutes yesterday or the other day, so there's no doubt. I feel like they go back to throwing him in the starting lineup, but I think Gary Trent kind of earned that spot. And obviously, I don't know if he's going to hit 9 3-pointers again, but I'm really hoping you can get another 3 to 5 from him, and just being able to be that starter for us. I guess to allow guys to score and get open to eventually, hopefully, go on another run and win the game going into Indiana.
Yeah, and that's so interesting you bring that up, because I didn't even notice that Taurean Prince wasn't even on the floor. Like, that was such a I was like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. Taurean Prince really hasn't played all them. And again, this is what happens in the playoffs: is people who normally start aren't going to be, if you're not performing, you're going to be a little less than featured. That's the way it was with Kyle Kuzma. Where Kyle Kuzma, I believe, came in at the end of the game as like a extra bench guy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was with the players who don't play all that much. Because Kuzma really hasn't done it. Kuzma throughout the first 3 games hasn't really played all that well, and you really need him to step up, because you're relying on him to be that third scorer. And when he's not doing it, and you have to rely on guys like Gary Trent, then Doc Rivers really has to shrink the rotations a little more. Like, that's how it is that's how it's always been in the playoffs. That's how it always will be. Is if you're not performing, you're not going to play. It's just that simple. And Kuzma, unfortunately, has been very it's just been like gas station shrimp. He's just been gross. He just hasn't played particularly well. And Taurean Prince, same thing. Taurean Prince, people kept raving about him. Oh my God, TP, like the number 1 3-point percentage shooter in the NBA. Where have those threes been?
Yeah, I think he's only taken 3 shot attempts this whole series, and I don't think he's made one.
That's the thing. Is, again, if you're afraid to shoot, if you're not confident in your ability, then you're not going to play. And you gotta have that AJ Green type trigger where it's like, fuck it, I'm shooting it. Like again, AJ Green even the other day made like a long 3 to kind of help seal the game. So I mean, you got to be confident in your shot. Like, you can't be like Taurean Prince and just take 3 shots and think that's good enough, and just be like a net negative. Because trust me, there are guys who can step in and fill that role. Now, granted, some guys haven't gotten much of an opportunity yet, aka Andre Jackson Jr. But I mean, again, the playoffs is for everyone. If one guy's not stepping up, there's always spots for other people to step up. That's the beauty of it. Is unheralded heroes are made all the time in the postseason.
Yeah, and I think it's frustrating with Taurean Prince, just kind of knowing that, you get him for his 3-point shooting. He didn't do bad during the regular season. Basically, like another Malik Beasley, you never know kind of what you're going to get from him. But no, the last game he went 2 for 4, so I think he's 2 for 6 this series. Again, efficient, but 6 shot attempts in 3 games is not a good look. You can do that in a half, essentially. But no, which is unfortunate, because you were really hoping that, you throw Gary Trent in the bench and it's a good shooter to have come out the bench, him and AJ Green. But hey, if you're not going to make shots, you're not going to take shots, I don't feel like you should play. So not a bad thing. Again, kind of was hoping Andre Jackson Jr. would get a couple minutes as well. Kind of mentioned him earlier. He was the only one who didn't play yesterday when they threw out like all the bench guys. So, it is what it is. But no, I just think for going into game 4 today, again, I think Kyle Kuzma just kind of needs a little pick me up, and just, a game where obviously this was his best game out of the three so far, and he went 4 for 9. I think he just kind of needs the confidence back. I think he's capable of doing it. Just knowing those first two games weren't the best, just kind of getting that confidence back. And I think Lillard obviously not playing for over a month and then all of a sudden coming back and playing 2 playoff games, probably not going to look the best. So I'm hoping that he can kind of have that bounce back game. But yeah, otherwise, we're just going to need guys to step up. And if Torian Prince isn't going to be able to do that, then, oh, sorry. I don't know what else I can tell you.
All right, so as we kind of move ahead with this game starting at like 8:30, what do you expect in Game 4? Like, what's Milwaukee's keys to win?
Obviously, they're going to need shooting to step up. Like I said earlier, I mean, it would be awesome if Gary Trent had another phenomenal game where he makes around like 7 3-pointers. But again, don't really think it's going to happen. So you're going to need guys like Lillard to step up and kind of go back into his second scoring role. I would say Lillard being the biggest one, and I want to say Brook Lopez and Kevin Porter Jr. to kind of have some bounce back games. Obviously, they went 0 for the last 2 games. I think Kevin Porter had a free throw. But those have been Brook Lopez. Obviously, is Brook Lopez. You know, he's not going to really do much outside of standing in the paint, but you know, he's one of those guys who can get a couple threes. And I think Kevin Porter Jr.'s like fast paced play. I feel like it hasn't really been shown on the offensive side this series. Defensively, you know, he's been grabbing rebounds, he's assisting players on offense, but he's not scoring. Obviously, where he's not one of those guys who's just going to throw 15 to 20 points off the bench. But you know, it's nice to have what he, and that especially in the last win streak going to the playoffs, just being able to be one of the guys off the bench who you can trust and throw out there. You know, he's fast, he's a lefty, he can attack the hoop, and I just feel like I haven't really seen that from him at all these first 3 games. So I'm kind of hoping for a big Kevin Porter Jr. and Brook Lopez bounce back game, hoping that whatever they do is better than Game 3. It always sucks to have like a really good game and then you don't do anything essentially. That's like scoring 15 runs in a baseball game, but you went 0 for 4. So it's one of those things where you wanna see everyone succeed in games where you win by 15 plus.
Yeah, and again, and my key for the Bucks to win Game 4 is, you know, you gotta players outside of Giannis step up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Gary Trent Jr. having 9 threes, blowout win. You gotta have everybody step. BP, you know, Gary Trent, you know, KPJ, guys like that. If they could step up, like Milwaukee's gonna win. You know, Indiana, they were lucky because they didn't hit a whole lot of threes last game. You know, they really struggled from behind the 3-point line. So if Milwaukee can, you know, keep Indiana's wide open threes at bay, then I think they're going to win. So just a simple fact. You hope they can do it, and I think they will be able to. So just a quick prediction. I do think Milwaukee's going to win this game, and they're going to tie the series. How about you?
I agree. I think it's going to be another one. I think it's going to be a lot more close than obviously Game 3 was. I don't think there's going to be a shoot off like that. I obviously have Miles Turner who went 1 for 9, 0 of 6 from 3. I feel like he's going to have a bounce back game. So I really think it's going to come down to Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner. And then I'm going to throw in Naismith as well. I feel like he's been a heavy hitter throughout this series. So I feel like it's just going to be holding one of those 3 guys to having a crappy game again. Doesn't matter who. But it's just going to have to be making the easy shots. And I feel like keeping the turnovers low as well. They had 13 turnovers last game, forced the Pacers have 14. So it's Giannis having a lot of poor passing. I feel like it's just something that they can ease up on. But you know, I think the Bucks can win. I'm going to say it's going to probably be around like. Well, I'm not even going to say it because I feel like every time I give a prediction, we're light years off, and I don't want to jinx anything. But you know, I definitely can see them tying up the series. I think that home court was much needed. Fingers crossed too, because I can't take it if they go down 3-1.
Yeah. they go down 3-1, it is likely that Milwaukee's season is going to end early for the third straight season. So you just hope that doesn't happen. So, all right. Thank you guys for tuning in to this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.